that Donald Trump is usually a very transactional figure, and there are certainly a lot of transactions happening on this trip, but he also has quite a personal relationship with the leaders of Qatar and the UAE and Saudi Arabia, and you can see that in how relaxed and friendly the atmosphere is on this trip. And so I think we'll see a lot of positivity out of it.
Now, let's speak to Edmund Bauer then, Saudi Arabia editor for the business news website AGB Insight, who is in Riyadh for Donald Trump's trip. Good evening, Edmund.
Good evening.
Let's just paint a picture of what we've had today, if we can take in the optics. I gather that there was a lavender carpet, or a purple carpet rather than a red one, for Donald Trump. Just tell us a bit about the reception he got from Saudi.
There was certainly a lot of pageantry that came with it. There was he had a fighter jet escort bring the plane down, and Mohammed bin Salman, who is de facto ruler of Saudi Arabia, met him on the red carpet at the airport, which is a rare honor, even for visiting heads of state. I think what the Saudis know well is that if there's one thing Donald Trump likes, it's pageantry. I think they went all out to make him feel that this was a monumentous occasion, that this was something special, and I think that's what they delivered as well.
He's brought a huge team with him, hasn't he? Business leaders like Elon Musk, Larry Fink of BlackRock, Sam Altman of OpenAI. He's brought some very heavy players with him. Is that to impress Saudi?
I think possibly it's to impress Saudi, but like you said a few moments ago, what speaks loudest to Donald Trump is money. What he is hoping to achieve here is business deals, or at least business promises. So promises of future deals. There's this 600 billion, which is, I should point out, a very high number, probably too high to expect all of it to come through in the end. But I think there are some earnest business negotiations taking place. There's particularly Saudi Arabia is interested in what the US has to offer, particularly in AI, microchips, and electric vehicles. These are all things that Saudi Arabia is trying to develop an industry of its own. And they see an opportunity to form better partnerships with the US, not just for political reasons, but also for economic reasons.
What has Donald Trump had to say about his relationship with the Middle East? I note that he described it as the dawn of a bright new day awaits people of the Middle East. He said, for the first time in 1,000 years, the world will look at this region not as a place of turmoil or strife, war and death, but as a land of opportunity and hope. There is no doubt about it that he is on Team Middle East at the moment.
No, you're right. I think that speech we hear so often from Trump, these kind of rambling speeches, which are often mostly ad lib. But there was some really clear messages in that one that definitely came straight from a pre-prepared script. He spoke about hoping for the Middle East to be defined by commerce and not chaos. He told the Saudis and the other Gulf countries that they have achieved a modern miracle, the Arabian way. And although these might sound like platitudes to us, they're almost exactly out of the playbook here. This is exactly the way that Gulf countries, especially Saudi Arabia, has been trying to present itself in the last few years. So he is, at least in what he says, completely aligned with the image that they're trying to project and the future that they're trying to build.
What does this mean for peace in the Middle East? Of course, it's not really it was addressed, but in this sort of dawn of a bright new day, golden age of the Middle East, etc. Trump selling the vision of this golden age. But of course, that cannot be achieved. And, Saudi and other Gulf states will be completely aware of this. That cannot be achieved without peace, certainly between Hamas and Israel. All those conversations be going on in the background, leaders of Gulf states pressing Donald Trump to help reach peace in Gaza.
I think those conversations will definitely be happening. They're not always the most pressing conversations that are happening. And I should add, even though Saudi's vision is definitely this one of commerce, not chaos, for the Middle East. That isn't to say that the Gulf countries themselves have always minimized chaos, to use that term, in the rest of the Middle East themselves. There are these debates which are ongoing with Iran now, and there are talks ongoing with Hamas. And yes, okay, the intent is there. He said explicitly again he wants to find a deal with Iran. He wants to make peace in Gaza, but he is not the first US president to have these ambitions. He's coming down very solidly on the side of those that he considers his friends and allies in the region. Whether or not that will lead to peace, we'll see. Certainly the intent is there, but that's not to say that that's how things are going to play out.
What happens next in terms of this trip, Edmund? He's off to Qatar, isn't he?
He's off to Qatar tomorrow, but before then, GCC leaders will be in Riyadh. This is another, by the way, big diplomatic coup for Riyadh, for Saudi Arabia, which has always seen itself as the center of the Gulf and is really trying to make that a reality. He's also scheduled to meet, probably briefly, given how much he's got to do tomorrow, with Mahmoud Abbas, who's president of, who will be there representing the Palestinians, as well as Ahmed Shara, who's president of Syria. And as you would have seen, Trump declared that they would be lifting sanctions on Syria. So yeah, a lot announced today, a lot taking place. It's going to be a busy day for them tomorrow.
So the White House say that meeting with President Shah of Syria won't take place, but it's still being reported, isn't it? Do we think that will go ahead then?
I think what's been reported is that he said he'll say hello is the words that have been reported. I think perhaps it will be a brief meeting. I mean, he's got a lot on tomorrow, so it may not take place at all. But I think the fact that it's been leaked and then was announced subsequently suggests at least that again the intent is there. He's prepared to sit down with the leader. We'll see tomorrow if it happens or not. Yeah.
Edmund, thank you so much for being with us. Really appreciate it. Edmund Bauer there, Saudi Arabia editor for the business news website AGB Insight in Riyadh for Donald Trump's trip. And of course, we'll be following Donald Trump's tour of the Middle East. Qatar up next tomorrow and a pretty significant meeting ahead of that, as Edmund's just been explaining. Let's now speak to Jasmine El-Gamal, who is a former Middle East advisor at the US Department of Defense. Jasmine, good evening to you.
Good evening, Kate. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us. Let's dig into this defence agreement being billed as the biggest defence deal in history with Saudi Arabia. Is that technically true, first of all?
Yeah, I believe so, and I believe that there are a lot of firsts on this trip, Kate. I mean, you were talking to Edmund about a lot of it, but I think the combination of the amount of money that's being discussed right now, the amount of deals being made, the number of tech and business and banking executives that are with Donald Trump on this trip in Saudi Arabia, the political and geopolitical announcements that he's been making, the things that are both said and unsaid on this trip, all of it is shaping up to be an incredibly significant moment for U.S.-Saudi relations and U.S.-Middle East relations at large.
Does this mean now that the U.S. is sort of muscling in front of other major partners like the U.K. in supplying arms to Saudi? Are they trying to put themselves front and centre, essentially?
I would say so. I mean, the U.S. Is definitely, they have a massive manufacturing defense industry. And this administration and previous administrations as well are very close to Saudi Arabia, that they have been steadily sort of deepening that relationship over the years. And so it's not surprising at all to see the scope of this deal. Donald Trump also has been talking about this for a while, saying that he was going to bring money and jobs and investment from the Gulf into the U.S. And so what we see him now doing is following up on these promises. So I think something Edmund said, I was listening earlier, was that a lot of the announcements that have come out on this trip are scripted. It shows you just how much advance work has been done to make this trip a success and to set up the kinds of things that are happening. Usually, and this is from my experience also when I was at the Pentagon, the amount of work that goes into a trip before it actually takes place really makes or breaks the trip. And you can see from everything that's happening just how much previous coordination and work has been done between the two countries to set up for this moment.
Okay, so carefully orchestrated. What else is in this strategic economic partnership? We've got this arms agreement, but what else has been brokered here between the US and Saudi?
Well, we're talking about a whole range of things. We're talking about tech and AI. Saudi Arabia really wants to be a powerhouse when it comes to tech and AI, and has really been trying to get more out of the US in that regard. They want data centers in Riyadh. They want advanced chips. And these are some of the things that we're going to see coming out of this trip as well. Donald Trump has relaxed some restrictions on things like advanced chips to foreign countries, something that the Biden administration was worried that China would be able to access through these third countries. Trump has relaxed some of those restrictions, so it really paves the way to help Saudi Arabia achieve that vision and also help increase that coordination between the US and Saudi Arabia when it comes to issues like tech and AI.
How do Gulf states view this trip? I mean, Saudi welcoming him with open arms, as Edmund was explaining there, a purple carpet, a big amount of pageantry to bring Trump and his very extensive delegation into the state. Is it the same in Qatar? Will it be the same in the UAE? Everyone roundly applauds and sees the significance of Donald Trump, or is there any uncertainty among Gulf states about what Donald Trump means?
You know, that's an interesting question, Kate, because what I've been saying today is that I think we're seeing a sort of shift in the relationship writ large between the US and the Middle East, in the sense that everybody appears to be on the same page when it comes to moving the region forward in a way that is focusing on security and prosperity and economic development and expanding on the potential of the region, which has a very young population that is thirsty for opportunity. And so you see, even in the language that they're using in the speeches, a lot of words that are very positive, very warm, very cordial. Donald Trump is usually a very transactional figure, and there are certainly a lot of transactions happening on this trip. But he also has quite a personal relationship with the leaders of Qatar and the UAE and Saudi Arabia. And you can see that in how relaxed and friendly the atmosphere is on this trip. And so I think we'll see a lot of positivity out of it. And I just want to mention actually three things, Kate, that I thought were really interesting that weren't necessarily stated out loud, but the message was very loud and clear to me. The first is, and I know that you were asking about this too, in terms of peace in the Middle East between Hamas and Israel, how absent Israel was from conversations. The fact that Israel is not a stop on this trip, the fact that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth canceled a trip to Israel just before Trump went to the region, and the fact that Trump is gathering with all these Arab leaders, bringing even Arab leaders into Saudi Arabia to meet with him, like Ahmed al-Shara of Syria, who he may say hello to, as Edmund was saying, and Mahmoud Abbas of the Palestinian Authority, very much leaving Israel out in the cold and sending a strong message to Prime Minister Netanyahu that he needs to get on board with the current direction, which is peace, which is negotiation, which is diplomacy. Right. The second thing that I thought was interesting was when Donald Trump was talking about the neocons and the nation builders in his speech. This was a message directed at a domestic audience, because, as you know, there's been a lot of tension in his administration between the neocons and the hawks, who have been pushing for conflict with Iran for a long time, and people who are more America first, MAGA isolationists who prefer to keep the U.S. out of further conflict. And so that was a really strong message to those neocons back at home, saying that you're not winning. This is not the path I'm going down. And of course, the lifting of the sanctions on Syria, which is going to be a really positive move for the Syrian people. This wasn't a nod to al-Shara himself as an individual, but really a message to the people of Syria that they can now look forward to rebuilding and a new chapter in their country.
This plays into the golden age of the Middle East that he was predicting. Very briefly, because I've not got a lot of time with you, but both these points feed into what you've just said. He said he hoped that Saudi Arabia would join the Abraham Accords. Those are deals brokered between Israel and other Gulf countries. But surely Saudi is not going to do that without peace between Israel and Hamas. So it's just interesting that Donald Trump has said that, and that also leans into support for a two-state solution, doesn't it?
That's right. I mean, he did say it, but he knows, and it's been stated very clearly by the Saudis, that normalization is off the table until there is a Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital. And so Donald Trump was saying sort of aspirationally, you know, we'd love for you to join the Abraham Accords, but he knows it's not going to happen anytime soon, which is why he also said, but at your own time. Okay. He does want to be seen and remembered as someone who brokered peace in the Middle East between Israel and the Palestinians. And I think we'll see more work being done on that in the future. But for now, this was not a trip where he wanted to pressure the Saudis into anything. He just wanted to sort of savor the moment, focus on this economic and technological and geopolitical agenda that he has, and really come out of this with a whole bunch of wins that he can take back to the American people.
Really interesting. Jasmine El-Gamal, thank you. Former Middle East advisor at the US Department of Defense. Really good to speak to you.